What if I told you that the most dominant driver on the grid doesn't trust his car? That Ferrari somehow found a way to disqualify itself twice? And that the quietest name in the McLaren garage may be their most dangerous weapon? The Chinese Grand Prix weekend wasn't just another chapter in the 2025 season. It was a full-blown reality check for nearly every top team. And what we learned might just flip this championship on its head. Stick around, because every story we're about to dive into is connected. And the last one? It's a bombshell most fans missed entirely. Max Verstappen is leading the charge, but behind the scenes, he's fuming. Why? Because Red Bull's RB21 isn't the weapon he hoped it would be. Max made it clear in Shanghai. The balance is off. The grip isn't there when he needs it, and he feels the car has a narrow performance window. He even suggested that the Racing Bulls might be easier to drive than his own Red Bull. That's no small criticism. It's a red flag. Red Bull is still getting results, but it's not because the car is great. It's because Max is dragging it there. And if the car doesn't evolve fast, the championship could slip away. But while Max was managing problems, McLaren was managing something very different. An internal battle between two rising stars. One stayed calm, the other clearly rattled. Same car, same upgrades. Yet one McLaren driver looked in control while the other looked constantly unsettled. What's going on? It comes down to driving styles. Shanghai punished aggressive front-end inputs, and Norris's U-style cornering, loading up the fronts and carrying speed, was a recipe for front graining and errors. Meanwhile, Piastri's V-style, braking late, rotating sharply and getting out, preserved tires and delivered pace. Norris is still blisteringly quick, but when the car isn't perfect, Piastri's adaptability is a real advantage. That might just be the difference in a championship fight. And speaking of adaptability, there's one team quietly thriving by keeping things simple. They've built the least dramatic car on the grid, and it's working. It's not flashy, it's not dominant, but Mercedes W15 might just be the most important car on the grid. Why? Because it works. George Russell's described it as easier to drive, and that's huge. In a season defined by chaos and inconsistency, Mercedes has delivered stability. It may not be the fastest, but it's the most predictable, and that's letting Russell quietly bank podiums while others struggle. The W15 might lack edge, but it also lacks drama. It's letting Mercedes gather points and confidence. But while Mercedes builds momentum, Ferrari just unraveled in one of the most confusing, chaotic weekends in recent memory. Buckle up. Hamilton won the sprint. Leclerc looked fast. Then came Sunday, and Ferrari lost everything. How? 2 disqualifications, one for skid block wear, one for being underweight. Ferrari went from celebrating a decent points haul to walking away empty-handed. Worse yet, Hamilton's setup changes backfired badly, while Leclerc, with a damaged front wing, was the quicker of the two. It's not just the penalties, it's the inconsistency. Ferrari's car can be brilliant or baffling, and unless they get on top of it, their title hopes are toast. And while Ferrari melted down, one of their junior teams is sitting on a rocket ship, but keeps finding ways to waste it. Best of the rest in qualifying, nowhere in the race. What's happening at Racing Bulls? Strategy mistakes are killing this team. In Australia, they hesitated on tire changes. In China, they committed to a 2-stop too early and never adapted. The pace is there, but the pit wall keeps dropping the ball. Tsunoda and Hajar deserve better, but unless Racing Bulls sharpens up, they'll keep throwing away points. One team that did cash in this weekend? Haas. But don't be fooled. It might have been pure illusion. Haas scored big in China. Double points, huge turnaround. But is it real? Not really. The newly resurfaced track let Haas run their car lower, avoiding the aero-bouncing issues that plagued them in Melbourne. But that's a surface trick, not a fundamental fix. When the tracks get bumpier, expect those problems to return. For now, this is a band-aid, not a breakthrough. While Haas overperformed, one Red Bull Jr. underperformed again and might already be running out of chances. Red Bull made their choice. They backed Liam Lawson over Yuki Tsunoda. But 2 races in, are they already regretting it? Lawson's struggling, out-qualified, outpaced, and the car isn't helping. But Red Bull doesn't have time for sympathy. Tsunoda is shining at Racing Bulls, and the pressure is mounting. Red Bull may soon be forced into a decision. And if Lawson's form doesn't change fast, Suzuka might be his last race for now. And while the focus is on Red Bull's future, another driver is proving his value every single weekend, without the headlines. Williams signed a proven race winner in Carlos Sainz, but so far it's Alex Albon doing the heavy lifting. Albon has been consistent, fast, and focused. Sainz, meanwhile, is still adapting and openly confused about the car's behavior. The Williams is tricky, and Albon's understanding of it is clearly deeper. Sainz will get there, but Albon is reminding everyone that he's no placeholder. He's a top-tier driver in his own right. Finally, let's talk about a story that defied expectations: the Chinese Grand Prix itself. One local hero wasn't racing, and yet the event may have been even more successful. With Zhou Guanyu not on the grid, many feared the Chinese GP would feel flat. The reality, it was electric. The crowds were packed. The atmosphere was buzzing. Zhou, even as a reserve, was swarmed by fans and treated like a superstar. This isn't just about one driver. China's F1 fan base is real and growing. That's good news for the sport, and a great sign that the country's love for racing runs deeper than any one name. So, let's take a step back and look at what this Chinese Grand Prix weekend really showed us. Beyond just the stats, the finishing order, or who stood on the podium, we saw the defending world champion openly question the tools he's been given. Verstappen isn't just making the most of a tricky car, he's hinting that Red Bull's edge might be fading. And if he starts to lose faith, how long until that cracks the whole operation? At McLaren, the narrative that Norris is the clear team leader is no longer bulletproof. Piastri isn't just close, he's cool under pressure, technically sharp, and incredibly efficient. If this continues, McLaren might be managing a title fight between teammates, and that's a different kind of pressure entirely. Meanwhile, Mercedes isn't spectacular, but they're stable. And in a season where everyone else seems to be riding emotional and performance roller coasters, maybe consistency is the key. If they can slowly turn up the performance without destabilizing the platform, they'll be in this fight deep into the year. Ferrari? They're still oscillating between brilliance and breakdown. They had a sprint win. They had great race pace, but then they got themselves disqualified. Again. That's not just unfortunate. It's indicative of a team still struggling to execute under pressure, and they can't afford many more weekends like this. And then we have the satellite stories. Racing Bulls with a car that's better than their results. Haas bouncing back, maybe temporarily. Williams, where Albon continues to prove he belongs near the top of the grid. And Lawson, whose Red Bull dream could already be slipping away. Even the event itself told a story. With Zhou Guanyu out of the race, many expected a flat crowd. What we got was an electric, sold-out weekend that proved China is more than ready to be a permanent fixture on the F1 calendar, driver or not. This weekend was a reminder that every team, no matter how established, is under pressure in 2025. There are no untouchables, no guarantees, and no time to waste. So here's what I want to know from you. Who impressed you the most this weekend? Is Red Bull losing their grip at the front, or will Verstappen keep covering for them? And is Ferrari slowly improving, or still stuck in the same old patterns? Let us know in the comments. We read everything, and your takes fuel this community. And hey, if you're still here, you're exactly the kind of fan we make these videos for. So do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to Paddock Insider, and ring the bell so you're always first to know what's really going on behind the scenes in Formula One. The next chapter is Suzuka, and if the trend continues, we're in for another wild ride. We'll see you there.